Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mediation and Beyond YouTube channel. So excited today to have Galit Romanelli from Israel. She's a mother and founder of M.Ed Milk, whose passion for gender and female empowerment drives her to bring women together to openly share and care for each other. She also works with her husband as a coach at Potential State, and she deeply believes in the importance of owning one's narrative combined with gentle advocacy to create positive change. And she strives to create authentic spaces where everyone feels welcomed and empowered to share their story. She uses her professional skills and her personal experiences to help people feel and be seen and heard. So Galit, thank you so much for coming today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Colleen.
Yes, and as you know, this is part 2 of a 3-part series that I'm doing with Galit on divorce. So part 1 you would have seen on the YouTube channel, which was divorce through the eyes of a child. And today, Galit, we're going to do divorce through the eyes of a wife. So thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So obviously you, for little people who don't know, you're a parent, you're divorced twice child. Like you have two, your mom got divorced twice from your dad and then from your stepdad. And so, yep. Which was the important information on that is in video 1 of this series. But now you're a wife and a mother, but right now I just want to talk about how did having your mom divorce and your dad divorce, and then the second divorce as well, impact you as a wife? Like, what's that lens about?
Yeah, so I'd say that I think it made me realize that relationships and marriage in particular are hard work.
Okay.
They require a lot of attention. They require a lot of communication. It's almost like a skill, you know. We don't necessarily know how to be in a long-term relationship, you know, forever. Like that's not a given, especially, you know, with divorce rates climbing continuously. And especially I think kind of these days where it's so accessible and it's so easy and it seems kind of like, oh, well, it's not working, so on to the next kind of thing, you know? And I think it really made it clear to me, one, that it's hard work, that to stay married and happily married, not just married, but happily married in a kind of fulfilling, respectful relationship really requires a lot of dedication.
And see yourself doing that you didn't see perhaps your mom doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to put everything on mom, but
right.
or what
I think
heard, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think that for me, it kind of became more clear as to what my mom was or wasn't doing. And I'm happy to, I say my mom just because I spent more time with her and I was able to see her relationships. And she was very comfortable kind of being on her own. Even her relationship with my stepdad, that was kind of long distance. We lived together, you know, my mom and my stepdad remarried when I was 7 and we lived together for 4 years. And then my mom came back to live in Israel. My stepdad was in the States. So it was clear to me that my mom was very comfortable kind of being on her own. Mm-hmm. And that made it clear to me that that wasn't a partnership in the full sense of what it meant to be partners. And I think that kind of became also illuminated when my mom had my brother, who's 12 years younger than me. So then it was really clear because it wasn't a partnership in how they really raised my brother. At least that's how it felt. Kind of as you know, as someone who is looking, you know, on the side of how they were kind of parenting. And so it was really important for me to find someone who kind of viewed the world in the same way that I did, or that we had a shared language, that we had shared values, that I knew we could grow and communicate and evolve. You know, like self-development was something that was really important to each of us individually and together. I mean, I don't think that it's by coincidence that I ended up marrying a couples and family therapist, you know? So, and we really believe that. We both genuinely believe that relationships are really hard work, but that there are people growing mechanisms, right? Like you grow a lot, each individually and together. And I think that we invest a lot of time in that. Whether it's kind of fine-tuning how we speak to each other, whether it's really understanding our emotions and what drives us to behave a certain way, and then taking the time to kind of autocorrect and really prioritizing our relationship. I'd say we genuinely prioritize, you know, it's not just date night. It's like date night to talk about what's working, what's not working, what, you know, if something isn't working, what does that mean? What does it look like? And what's our contribution to that? You know, what yeah, it's ownership. Yeah, absolutely. Ownership.
And my contribution, like, here's what I think I'm doing. And and here's why I might be doing. I'm not justifying it, but I do know that I'm doing that. And owning your shit, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it all comes back to kind of that, and also learning how to be there for your partner without, you know, without having to be responsible for their feelings. In other words, if a Sa'el is upset or frustrated, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's my responsibility to fix or change, or I can just empathize. I can just, you know, let it land and listen and take it in. And that might be enough for that moment. And I think that that's really hard. I think that one of the things that we've learned the most, and this is something that, you know, as a child of divorce, I didn't really see, and I don't know how many of us get to see it, is the kind of rupture and repair cycle that relationships go through, which it's inevitable. We're always gonna go through that cycle, right? There's always gonna be a rupture, and then we need to learn how to repair it, and how do we come out of that rupture. And so I think those are the things that kind of where I'm really mindful, and I've really taken kind of from my experience as a child of divorce into my marriage.
What did you learn from being a child of divorce, or see that you that was working with your either parent and even step parents, that you actually found helpful and brought into your marriage? Was there anything that you said, you know, that was a good thing they did, or that was really helpful my dad or my mom did? Like, was there anything that sticks out?
Oh, that's a tough one. I feel like there was a lot that I was like, don't want that. No, not taking that. Which I have to say, I think it's really important. I think I think that so many times we kind of underestimate that kind of what we don't want is just as important as what we do want.
Yes.
But I would say my parents, both of them, both my dad and my mom and my stepdad, and my stepmom, they all have an element of kind of playfulness, and they are able to be playful, and they all have a really good sense of humor. And I think that is kind of the biggest thing that I took with me and continue to take with me.
And I think that's I think play, one of my staples in life. Like, we have to play. You have to have fun.
Yeah, totally.
Can't always be heavy and serious, right?
Yeah.
But by the same token, was there anything that stood out that you knew, I don't want that? I don't have to say who gave it to you, you know, but you know what I mean, or where you saw it. But was there something that you saw, like, you know, I don't think that that's a thing that would work for me?
Yeah, I would say the kind of rigidity of your stance, which is kind of the opposite of own your shit, you know, when you're like, no, I'm right, and this is the, you know, and not being able to cross the bridge, not being able to empathize, not being able to see where the other person is coming from, because you're so rigid and stuck in your pain that you're just, nobody is hurting more than you right now. Nobody.
Right.
And when you're unable to see, oh, well, actually, you know, yes, I am hurting, but also that person is hurting, then it's just, there's nowhere to go from there.
Right. You know,
and I think,
I don't know if you've ever seen the Dr. Phil show. I don't know if you've
yeah, yeah.
So he calls that being a right fighter, where you're so stuck in being right that there's no way out. There's nowhere to, like you just said, there is nowhere to go with that. So that you learned was, I'm not doing that in my relationship. That doesn't work.
Well, I mean, I do it. No, but definitely one thing that kind of that I'm very aware of, and I know that when I get into those corners, it's harder to get out too, and that's kind of
that you're working.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and those are the tricky spots that I'm like, I gotta look out for that.
So I think in essence, really, through the eyes of being a wife now, it's really takeaway is like, there are some good things to take out of our experiences as kids of divorce, and there's some things we don't want. But you know, that's the same whether my parents are married 93 years and they're like, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like,
right.
And then there are things that are like, that's a good thing to keep. So
yeah.
I think that but what I love about where you're at is the awareness that you really took out of everything. It's just being aware and waiting for a partner that would be aware with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Colleen, just as you were speaking now, it also made me think that, you know, especially I think when kids are involved, no relationship is perfect. And it won't be. So I think that, you know, I used to be kind of like, oh, you know, if it's not working, then divorce is completely, totally fine, and you don't stay. And I think that that's kind of softened, because if you don't work on your patterns, so you may divorce, but you're going to take those patterns with you. So there's a part of me that kind of has softened that, and I think that, you know, when kids are involved, yeah, you really want to work really, really hard, because you're actually not going to be able to sever the tie completely anyway.
Never.
So you might as well work on yourself and figure out, you know, what's yours and what's not, and what can be fixed and what can't.
Right, so that you don't make such deep grooves that you can't get yourself out of it, right?
Right.
You're just so, you were saying earlier, it's so stuck. But you don't have to be. Well, this was great. I'm going to end this one for our series.
Thank you.
And we will pick up with the third one coming up. So please, everybody, hang on. Click the next one that you'll see in the series, which is going to be Through the Eyes of a Mother. So Galit, thanks so much for this one. And
thank you.
we'll talk again. Thanks.
Okay, can't wait. Bye. Bye.